Everyone's talking about the possibility that our universe might be a simulation. But if that's true, what does that make you and me? How do we even begin to explain what we perceive as reality? If everything we know is just lines of code, how could we ever prove it? Most discussions online barely scratch the surface. They circle around the idea, but never touch the core. So today, we're peeling back the layers. We're going deep, from cosmology to physics to philosophy. Let's dissect this idea from the roots. But before we dive in, let's trace how this question has evolved. From ancient philosophy to modern science. Back in ancient Greece, Plato told a story in his book The Republic, the Allegory of the Cave. In it, a group of people are trapped in a dark cave since birth. They can only see shadows on the wall, never the actual objects casting them. To them, the shadows are reality. They don't even know there's anything more. Now think about it. Are we like those prisoners, mistaking what we see and hear every day as the whole of existence? Could it be that we're trapped, not in a cave, but in a limited version of reality, completely unaware of a broader truth? Centuries later, philosopher René Descartes pushed the idea even further. He imagined a scenario where an evil demon manipulates all of our senses. Everything we see, hear, feel could be fake. What if our thoughts, our emotions, our consciousness are just part of an elaborate illusion? Can we ever truly trust what we experience? Or is our reality something else entirely? Plato and Descartes planted the seeds. But today, those ancient questions have taken on new, scientific forms. Advancements in computer science, quantum mechanics, and digital physics have made the line between real and simulated increasingly blurry. With the rise of virtual reality and artificial intelligence, we're forced to re-examine our world, not just as a philosophical metaphor, but as a technical possibility. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom at Oxford University proposed the simulation hypothesis. He laid it out plainly. If a civilization becomes advanced enough, it could develop the computing power to simulate entire universes complete with conscious beings. Bostrom offered three possibilities, his now famous trilemma. Civilizations tend to go extinct before reaching the point where they can simulate universes. Civilizations can reach that point, but choose not to create simulations. Civilizations do create simulations, and if even one does, the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the real one. In that case, chances are we're living in one of the simulations. Bostrom himself believed the third scenario was the most likely. Think about it. If there's only one base reality, and potentially billions of simulated ones, statistically speaking, the odds that this is the real one are incredibly slim. So how do we test this idea? Can science actually prove or disprove it? Well, maybe. Take the famous double-slit experiment. When light passes through two slits, it behaves like a wave, creating interference patterns. But the moment we observe which slit it goes through, it stops behaving like a wave and acts like a particle instead. It's as if reality knows we're watching, and it changes accordingly. This is eerily similar to how video games work. In a simulated world, only what's in your direct line of sight is rendered. Everything else remains unprocessed until you move closer. Reality, then, may only appear when we're looking. That's a powerful clue. Then there's quantum entanglement. Two particles separated by vast distances can instantly affect each other's state. It's as if they're connected by some invisible thread that defies the speed of light. Sound familiar? It's like a multiplayer game server, where every player's experience stays synchronized, no matter how far apart they are in the virtual world. These strange quantum behaviors don't prove we're in a simulation, but they certainly make us question whether we're living in a world governed by a higher order system. So if this is a simulation, who built it? Let's start with one theory: post-human civilizations. If we are in a simulated universe, it might have been created by a species far more advanced than us. A civilization where artificial intelligence has long surpassed human intelligence, where computing power is nearly infinite. They may have simulated our world to study history, to run experiments, or maybe even for entertainment. Considering the vastness of the universe, it's not far-fetched to imagine other civilizations existing beyond Earth. Perhaps we're just one instance in a vast array of simulations created by some alien intelligence, curious about life on Earth. Or maybe it wasn't aliens at all. Maybe it was AI itself. Today's AI is already learning and adapting at unprecedented speed. What happens when it surpasses us entirely? Would it create a virtual universe of its own, populated with conscious entities like us, run experiments, study our behavior? We might be living in a world crafted by AI without even realizing it, no matter who built it. The unsettling part is this: would we ever know? If we truly discovered we're in a simulation, what could we do about it? To find out, scientists have proposed some tests, ways to detect the glitches in the system, and one of the most famous is the lattice universe hypothesis. Physicist Silas Bean proposed that the universe isn't smooth and continuous, but made of discrete points, like pixels on a screen. Each point in space-time would be a tiny, indivisible unit. Think of it like the grid in a video game. If this were true, we might be able to observe cosmic rays and find irregularities, signs that space isn't as continuous as it seems. High-energy particles might behave differently when hitting certain grid points, just like how objects in a game are confined to move within a predefined structure. If we find these patterns, it could be the strongest evidence yet that our universe is rendered, not real. But if it's virtual, what does that mean for free will? That's not just philosophy. It's a real and disturbing question. If everything is simulated, are all of our choices predetermined? Is free will just an illusion? In video games, players seem to have choices, but those choices are always within boundaries set by the game's code. Could that be our situation too? And if that's the case, what happens to morality? Can we be held responsible for decisions we never truly made? If we were designed, what kind of ethical relationship exists between us and our creators? Should a simulator be held accountable for the suffering in its world? Do simulated beings like us deserve moral consideration? These questions quickly spiral into deep existential territory. In fact, they're so overwhelming, it's hard not to want to just look away. Of course, the simulation hypothesis is fascinating, but it's not without critics. One of the biggest challenges? It's unfalsifiable. In science, a theory must be testable. It must be possible to prove it wrong. But if we're inside the simulation, any evidence we gather could be part of the simulation itself. In other words, the system could always hide its tracks. Then there's the issue of computing power. Simulating an entire universe, down to every atom, every thought, every feeling, would require unimaginable resources. Even the most advanced civilizations might struggle to process that much data. Right now, our best simulations can barely handle a small environment. Simulating a full universe? That's a whole different level. Finally, some scientists argue we don't need the simulation hypothesis to explain the universe. Maybe it's just the result of natural evolution, not some grand design by aliens or AI. In this view, the simulation hypothesis is more of a philosophical tool, challenging how we think about reality, rather than something we can prove. Still, even if we never confirm it, it changes how we think about life, about purpose, about the very nature of existence. So before we end, let me ask you again, if our universe is virtual, then what are you and I, in the grand scheme of things?